I guess they're lessons that I've learned anyway along the way. Some of this is repetitive of other things that have been said today. But I actually have 10 points. How about that? The first is, as has been said before, develop excellent Chinese and English language skills. And when you think you've achieved a high standard, go back to work. Don't stop there. Language learning is a lifelong pursuit, and few investments will pay higher dividends than outstanding language skills and the related ability to use them in effective communications. By the way, effective communications does not mean over-reliance on PowerPoint presentations. Very important point in my view. Second, work on your patience. Almost nothing of enduring value will happen quickly, and impatience will cost you, sometimes dearly. Learn how to take a long-term view and live happily with it. Third, if you're the arrogant type, consider a makeover. Humility opens doors and earns respect. Arrogance slams doors, often invisibly, and undermines trust building, which is an essential part of relationships. Nothing of significance happens in China without strong relationships, which are built on mutual respect. Fourth, become a student of how people with their roots in different cultures think differently, analyze problems from different perspectives, and tend to focus on different parts of the same landscape. Fifth, especially in the early phase of your career, pay attention to finding jobs which offer maximum mentoring exposure to high-quality people whose values and skills you can learn from. Sixth, your greatest asset will be your reputation, so invest carefully with the long term in mind. A good reputation takes a long time to build, but a very short time to damage. Don't take shortcuts when it comes to values or integrity. Seventh, find something you are passionate about and set your sights on being the best in the world at it. Hang on to your dreams no matter what the odds appear to be. Eighth, cultivate your sense of humor, including the ability to look at yourself in the mirror each morning, accept what you see gracefully, and have a good laugh with yourself. Ninth, seek the advice of experts on your future career path in China, but take their advice with a grain of salt. Don't be intimidated by the challenge of taking the entrepreneurial path. It offers great rewards and satisfaction, and you may be better suited to it than you realize. 10th and last, China is an enormously complex and very fast-changing country. If you want to understand it, study the history and focus on fundamental directions rather than trying to read the tea leaves with a microscope. In conclusion, in your lifetime, there will be no issue of global importance which will not involve China as an important part of the dialogue and the search for solutions. And despite China's fast-growing legions of advanced English learners, the demand for competent Chinese English linguists in a broad spectrum of professions, fields, and industries will continue to be very strong for a long time to come. I wish you all every success in your careers and lives, and I would remind you that your timing of entering the job market is very good, much better than mine was. You've chosen a great, exciting field in which you will have an opportunity really to build a better world. So go forth, have fun, work hard, be successful, and above all, be happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind and insightful words. And Mr. Gorman will now be taking any questions. Yes.
Thank you so much for your fantastic stories. I mean, thank you so much for sharing those experiences with us. And I just have a quick question. Since you talk about like the open door policy in China, like based on your experience, and what I'm quite interested in is that, I mean, the fact is China is being more open in the last decades. But the thing is that we still have some topics that still like not that open enough for us to talk about. For example, censorship. So what I'm quite interested in that, like based on your personal experience or like your friends or like colleagues, what kind of experience you have, say, like censorship or associated like in your area, and you want to share with us?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
You want me to just stay here? Can I, or do you want me to stand up? Okay. It's a very good question. And obviously, in the media business, it's a big issue. I would say this, that censorship obviously is a sensitive topic. I think that most of us can understand the rationale behind a government trying to control a flow of information which they think of as sensitive and perhaps seditious or leading to political instability and so on and so forth. And I think there were probably as many views on how that should be done or whether it should be done as there are people in this room. But I think that it's important to bear in mind that if you look back to the spectrum of sensitive subjects from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the spectrum is much smaller today. Yes, there are still areas that are subject to a lot of censorship. That's true. But on the other hand, particularly with the advent of the web and mobile telephony, there is an enormous amount of political satire, for example, on the web, which I think would shock most non-Chinese readers. I mean, it's pretty snarky, and it gets up, some of it gets taken down, but I can tell you, even in the last couple of weeks, there are examples that are kind of like, wow. And that's not entirely due to the fact that the web cannot be controlled. The Chinese government has got a pretty good system in place. And it's a little bit hard to predict, and it sometimes seems a little bit inconsistent to outsiders. But I think that my take on it is that the general direction is towards more openness. I think that's a deep-seated conviction on the part of the Chinese leadership. How it's implemented is going to be, sometimes 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and sometimes confusing to those of us on the outside. But I think the fundamental trend is a positive one. And I mean, I'll give you an example. When we started Fortune China, we're published in Hong Kong, right? So we are in a very real sense a one country, 2 systems media play. In the beginning, a lot of old-timers in the media business said, Chinese government's not going to let you do that. They're not going to let you bring a global media brand.
Like mainland?
Right, yeah. People said that, that won't fly. Chinese government's not going to let you do that. And I said, I think the proof will be in the pudding, and it depends on how we implement. And if we implement with respect for laws and respect for serious no-fly zones versus other stuff. And so I subsequently, not only have they let us do that, but I have heard the minister in charge of the press and publishing regulatory stuff cite us as an example of the Chinese government's flexibility with regard to international media. So there are examples like that you can cite too, and I think it's manageable, put it that way.
What hasn't changed in the last 30 years of time?
What hasn't changed? The food is still really good. I think a lot hasn't changed. I mean, I think a lot hasn't changed.
You share with us, very interesting anecdotes about the 70s and 80s, but I'm curious to know, what's in your mind, like when you go to bed today and you think, oh, back in the day, this is something that I fairly enjoyed, and this is something that I do appreciate coming back to China.
Oh, well, I'll tell you one thing. This is not directly an answer to your question, but today is the first time, as I mentioned, I'm coming back to the Princeton campus in more than 20 years, so it's great fun. I got on the train at Penn Station. I thought, geez, I haven't been on this train forever. And I had my notebook out. I was looking out the window. I'm probably going to write on my blog about this experience. And so I'm going to look out the window and see what's changed in the landscape, and I'm making notes. And suddenly I'm aware that the people in my train car, like half of them are speaking Putonghua. Wait a minute, this is a disorienting experience. It's like a reality distortion field. New Jersey's turned Chinese. And then, of course, I realized the Tsinghua group was on my train car. So, but for a moment there, I was really kind of wondering. But the reality is, to be honest with you, I felt very comfortable. I thought, that's very familiar, and So, you know, I think a lot of fundamental things in Chinese culture in terms of the strength of the family values, emphasis on education, haven't changed. And I think that what's been most gratifying, I think, to me and to many of us is, and Peter Light mentioned this at lunchtime, is really two things. One is the sense of fear that was so pervasive when we first went to China. I mean, walking down the street, the Laobaixing were afraid to talk to foreigners. They really were. And once we figured that out, you didn't make the effort because you didn't want to get them into trouble, and they would have to be questioned when they went home. So is there an absence of fear? No, but relative to where it was, there's been enormous progress. So that the other thing is relating to that is that the role of the danwei, the role of the employer organization, I mean, they used to control every aspect of your personal life, from your education to when and whether you had children to job, you know, so job mobility, personal mobility was very, very limited. That's completely changed, you know. And so I guess the point that I'm getting at is that the civil liberties, if you will, and the spectrum of individual choices that Chinese people can make has expanded exponentially, and as has their standard of living by and large. Are there people left behind? Yes. But by and large, if you look at the big numbers, it's a remarkably, you know, 200 million people taken out of poverty in the last generation. That's to be congratulated. No mean feat.
Thank you, Mr. Gorman. Sorry, due to time constraints, that'll be it for now. But we really appreciate you being here with us, and we have a little token of appreciation.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
To end our conference, we would like to invite our president, Mei Li, to give a closing speech. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's been a real pleasure to meet all of you today, and really, I mean, thank you so much for all the kind words you've spoken to me and my team about today's conference. But really, I think this conference has only been tremendously successful because of your participation. So we hope you had a fruitful and fun day, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So now please join us in the reception in the campus club, and our team will direct you there. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.